Shields up, Iron Breakers. Rurikhan here coming at you with another video, and today we're going to be talking about Helldivers 2. This title was sent to me by PlayStation Portugal so that I could give it a look and tell you guys my opinions on it. There's already 2 gameplay live streams here on the channel that you can check out if you just want to watch some more Helldivers 2 unedited gameplay footage of me just playing the game. On the first live stream, I'm playing solo, and on the second one, I actually got together with Rurikhan and Watanagashi in order to test out the multiplayer co-op aspects of Helldivers. And let me tell you something, the game is actually a ton of fun. But as you are watching this gameplay, you might be questioning yourselves, what exactly is the genre of this game? What are we playing here? Is this a looter shooter? No, this is not a looter shooter, and that is probably going to be one of the things that a lot of people are going to jump to conclusions whenever they watch some of the gameplay for Helldivers 2. They're going to be like, oh, this is about, like Destiny. You get guns, higher numbers, all that stuff. That is not the point at all of Helldivers 2. The best description that I can give you, which is probably going to be a little bit weird, would be a co-op extraction third-person shooter live service thing. And I know if you're anything like me, you're going to listen to the words extraction shooter mixed together with live service, and it's probably going to be a big turnoff because usually I don't care that much about extraction shooters, and live service, I actually play quite a few live service games from time to time, so that part's not really a big deal for me. It's just the whole extraction part, it kind of like feels weird, right? So let me tell you guys about the basic setup that you do when it comes to playing a mission. You jump into a planet, you get deployed on these hellpod things, you land, they give you a set of objectives. Like, for instance, these can be go gather data, go sabotage facilities, go kill a certain number of enemies, the type of usual objectives that you would get in a game like this. There is a decent variety for them, but then you go through, there's a couple of optional side objectives that you might get in a specific mission. The more objectives you complete, the more rewards you get, like you can get these sample things which are used to upgrade some of the things back on your ship. You can get requisition, which is the currency that you can use to get more powerful stratagems, which is these things that let you deploy things like airstrikes or special weaponry and a lot of really cool stuff, right? Or you can also get additional EXP or everything together. So the more things you complete when you're out on a mission, the more bonuses you are going to get. But fundamentally, at the end of the mission, there's always an extraction phase, which is going to increase your score if you successfully extract. And that is kind of like why I would call it extraction third-person shooter. So you complete all of these mission objectives, and then at the end, you call in this ship that comes down from your ship to pick you guys up, and then if you successfully evacuate, you're going to gain more points. But even if you don't evacuate, if you're able to complete the mission, or if you're able to just complete part of the mission, you're still going to be somewhat rewarded for your efforts. And as you can see from the gameplay, in my opinion, this looks like a lot of fun, and when I've been playing the game, I feel like it is a ton of fun. One of the things that I would definitely like to highlight is the fact that this game is unapologetically designed around co-op. So what exactly does this mean? Can you play the game solo if you want to? I mean, I guess you can try. I definitely played it solo for a decent chunk of time, but it kind of becomes a different experience when you're playing solo, because when you're playing with other players, you can kind of like go in guns blazing, engage in brutal warfare with the insects or the automatons, which is another race that we are fighting. We'll talk more about that. But you can go in guns blazing. And when you're playing solo, you're going to have to be more careful. You're going to have to pick and choose your battles because it's going to be a lot harder for you to just engage in battle because you're going to just die. You're going to get overwhelmed and die. Whereas if you have more players, it's harder to be overwhelmed. Usually I've found that playing with at least 2 other people feels just right, but the game supports up to 4 players, and it seems to be balanced around 4 players. So if you're thinking about getting this game to just play solo, I wouldn't really recommend it personally. I think that you can play, but I didn't have nearly as much fun as I had when I was playing with other people. Now, it does have matchmaking, so it will matchmake you with random people, and you can also call in SOSs so that other players can join your mission and stuff like that, and that might be fun, but mostly I prefer to play these games with friends so that I can be in voice comms. Most likely a big portion of my experience in this game is going to be me and Watanagashi, and then we're probably going to join lobbies of other randoms, and we're just going to go and do our thing. But most definitely, this game is unapologetically co-op, and it is designed to be played in co-op, and in my opinion, That is not necessarily a bad thing. I understand that this excludes a large portion of players because there's a lot of people that would prefer to play by themselves. But the thing is, this way they get to do very interesting things, such as weapons that require 2 players to reload, which was a really fun thing that I was actually testing out earlier today with Waranagashi. We were trying like weapon, I forget what the name of it is, but it basically works like a rocket launcher, but it requires 2 players to reload. And a really funny thing is, like, you guys know how when you fire a rocket launcher, it's got like some feedback, well, not feedback, but it's got a blast that goes out the back whenever the missile gets shot out, right? This game actually takes that into account, and if I happen to be in the blast radius of the exhaust of the missile, you actually get sent to the ground, which is cool. That's another thing. The game has all kinds of friendly fire, so you got to be careful about that. I mean, this comes from the guys who designed Magicka. I don't know how many of you guys played Magicka, but this is going to feel very familiar, particularly when you're calling down stratagems that involve pressing buttons like going up, up, down, left, right, up, down, and you have to like do these combinations in order to bring down stratagems, like you're inserting the Konami code whenever you're calling down an airstrike or something like that, which is very familiar for people who played Magicka that required to press certain button combinations in order to cast spells, and usually chaos would ensue, right? So keep that in mind. That is kind of like what you are expecting with this game. Is it fun though? It is extremely fun. Now, let's talk a little bit more about specifics, like for instance visuals and animations. And in my opinion, if you're watching the gameplay footage here, I kind of feel like the visuals speak for themselves. I think the game looks great. It's not the most visually impressive thing that I've seen, but in my opinion, it looks really good. The gameplay also has crossplay. So it plays both on PlayStation 5 and on PC. The footage you guys are watching is actually PC because I figured, you know, I'll test the PC version of the game to see how it plays. I've heard that some people are having crashes. That has not been the case for me. Waranagashi is playing the game on a 2060, if I'm not mistaken, and it seems to be running fine for him. So, you know, no real issues. I'm actually playing 4K on a 6900 XT with most things cranked up to max. Not everything. There's a couple of things that I tipped down a couple of pips, but I'm not even sure I had to, because when I started the game, there was like the very first boot, it felt like it was lagging a little bit, so I lowered a couple of settings, never went back to touch them. But, you know, from a visual standpoint, I think it looks really good. I think that the animations look very good. I think that one of the most important things is the feedback that you get when you are shooting, which is very good. It makes the guns feel extremely punchy. I'll talk more about that when we get into the gameplay portion of the video, but like it feels like these guns actually have an impact as you are shooting your enemy. The enemies basically vibrate a little bit as they get shot. Vibrating is probably not the proper word, but you guys get the idea. You can kind of like feel the impact of the bullets on your enemies, and it feels very satisfying. You can shoot off limbs from these insects and stuff, and even from the automatons, you can shoot off limbs, and they keep coming at you like without arms and without some of their claws and stuff like that, and it just feels very satisfying. So visually and from an animation standpoint, it is awesome. The game also makes brutal use of ragdoll physics, so sometimes some creatures will slam into you and you'll get sent flying, and it's glorious. Other times you'll call in an airstrike and it explodes everybody around you and they'll die and they'll get sent flying as well. I like that. You know, when you kill some of these enemies, they will also fall to the ground and they'll start rolling off of hills and their limbs fly off. It's great. It is really, really good, and it feels very thematically appropriate for the kind of game that it is. It's just, from a visual standpoint, absolute feast. And from a performance standpoint, I personally haven't experienced anything that would be terrible. I think I had one crash in my 12 hours of playing the game. Other than, naturally, there were some server issues, but that's not really connected to visuals and animation, right? In terms of sound, I think that the sound is also excellent, whether it is when the characters are screaming out ridiculously patriotic stuff about Super Earth because of the theme of the game. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But whenever they're saying like, "Oh, democracy for everyone, freedom never sleeps," like stuff like this, I think is really cool, and it is very well done. But on top of it, and maybe even more importantly than that, whenever it comes to gun sounds, they feel really good. Whenever you hear the impact of your bullets on your enemies, whether they actually go into the flesh of these insect creatures that you are fighting, or whether they ricochet, it sounds just right. The sound of the different weapons also sounds really good, which again just contributes to the weapons feeling punchy and the overall fantastic gunplay that the game has. It just feels right. So visually, animation, sound, no complaints. I also like the soundtrack. It again feels very patriotic, exaggerated, almost superhero-like, which is kind of like what you would expect for a game like this. So no real complaints in that department. Quite the opposite. I think they've done an absolutely outstanding job. So now let's talk about the gameplay. And one of the first things that I gotta point out, because I know that this is going to be important for a lot of people, is this is an always online game. Okay, I know that this is something important. A lot of people are like, oh, can I play completely offline? No, you can't. This is an always online game, and that is because the gameplay is going to be evolving based on how the community plays the game. This is going to be a game that is going to be basically the objectives that you're going to have throughout the galaxy in terms of the planets that are available for the community to take on and all of that stuff. That is going to be changing dynamically as the community succeeds or fails to achieve the objectives that they kind of set out to the community. I'm going to be talking more about that when we get to their ideas for what the story of the game is going to be, because it's some really interesting stuff. I actually watched an interview earlier today detailing this, because ahead of playing the game, I hadn't really done a whole lot of research. I knew I wanted to check it out because I liked the original, but I decided let's just go in fresh, see how it feels, and if it feels good enough, then I'll do the research and figure out the rest. And oh boy, it feels friggin' fantastic. So anyway, back on the subject of gameplay. The gunplay is potentially some of the best that I've ever seen on a third-person shooter. I know that for a lot of people, you're going to be like, no, you're exaggerating. There's no way. And no, in my opinion, I am not. Like I said multiple times already, the guns feel very impactful when they shoot against the enemies. There's several different types of guns. There's shotguns, there's machine guns, there's pistols, there's rocket launchers, there's all of these crazy guns, there's rail guns. Hell, even today I was having a blast playing this sniper rifle that's called a particle rifle or whatever it's called, matter rifle, I don't know. And you guys know me, I'm not a sniper guy, but god damn, that gun felt good to shoot, because with that sniper, because of the caliber of the bullets, I was able to penetrate armored targets, which that's another thing. There are some targets in this game that are armored. This isn't about bullet spongy enemies, which is something that people might think when you see me shoot at enemies and the bullets are ricocheting, but it's more like some enemies have heavy armor and you're not going to get through that armor unless you're using specialist equipment, or you have to go around the monster, find the soft spot and actually shoot it in the soft spot, which is, again, good. And this is not like, in a lot of video games nowadays, oh, here's the weak spot. Sure, you can find the weak spot, but it is an organic thing that you see in the game. It's not like, oh, there's this little bubble that you gotta shoot because of reasons. But again, if you just have a really powerful rifle, like I had this crazy sniper rifle, you can shoot them right in the face and it goes straight through. But naturally, that is going to have limited ammunition, which is going to make it a little bit more of a specialist item. But again, it feels good to experiment with all of this equipment. And keep in mind, like I said, I've only played for about 12 hours. There's still so many things that I haven't even experienced yet. And another thing is some of the weapons actually require two people to properly operate, which was one of the things that I was experimenting with today, like I believe I've mentioned earlier in the video. So you had this rocket launcher, and the rocket launcher, when it gets deployed, because you have to call these special weapons to be deployed from your ship. So your ship sends these down. They're called stratagems. They send these down, and his weapon, the one that he bought, came with a special backpack in the weapon itself. So this is designed so that one of the players grabs the weapon, the other player grabs the backpack, and the backpack has the ammunition for the weapon. And so the player with the weapon prepares to fire, and then the other player can press E on PC, and it's going to be like a button prompt on console. And he just kind of latches onto the other character and automatically reloads for him. And that is really, really cool. It's just a really, really neat feature, and I like that idea that you actually need two players to operate this weapon properly. If you've been with the channel for a while, you'll be aware that I always talk about the concept of when I played Lost Planet 2 back in the day with my friends, and that I would need to take bullets to a cannon and then another player would actually operate the cannon. I find those types of co-op experiences to be very rewarding, and they create little stories when you are going through a mission that about like what happened in that mission that made it special. Like for instance, one of the missions that I did on stream where I was playing with Ratatosker, I was running ahead of the group and suddenly Ratatosker's like, oh, there's enemies behind me, and I look and Ratatosker's just about to get completely swarmed. So the game has this thing that you can do where you Superman dive into the ground and you kind of like go into a crawl, you go prone, right? So in order to get a little bit of head, Ratatosker jumps into the ground. And so I pick up my machine gun, my heavy machine gun, and I start shooting in his direction. And I just tell Ratatosker, don't get up, because he's prone in the ground. And I'm shooting bullets like right above his head. And Ratatosker's like, I can see the bullets flying through. And I was like, it feels good. See, you create these really organic moments with this type of gameplay that feel very satisfying. So, you know, hopefully this kind of explains to you what is the special thing about Helldivers. It's about cooperating with other players. It's going to be way cooler if you are playing with friends and you guys can get into voice comms so that you can all, you know, you banter while you're playing. But then again, that's an easy thing to say, right? Because every video game is more fun if you are playing with friends. It's not like I'm friggin' giving you any news. But the thing is, this game is specifically designed for that, and it takes advantage of that in a multitude of different ways. Because, for instance, if you are playing with friends, whenever you die, they have to summon you. Unless everybody dies, at which point, you know, the game kind of summons everybody back up. But there's a limited number of revives. They're not really revives, they're considered reinforcements or whatever. So technically speaking, your character dies, and another character that looks exactly like him replaces him. Also takes over your ship and all of that stuff, right? But, you know, that's kind of like the notion of it. And whenever somebody dies, you need to call them back in through the stratagem system as reinforcements, which is a neat little respawn system that requires more input from players. And then another thing that you can do is, if, say you die, and it was a really big insect that was coming after you guys, and so somebody summons you back onto the field, you're going to come in through the hell pod. And as you're coming into the planet through the hell pod, you can actually steer the hell pod and try to land on top of the insect that killed you, if it's a big one, and you'll just like squish it with the hell pod, and it is glorious whenever you get one of those kills. It's like telefragging back in Quake, and it's really cool, but it's a mechanic. You can also kill other players if you land on top of them, you know, casualties. If you feel like trolling somebody, that's also something that you can do. But overall, it is a really, really cool gameplay experience. I greatly enjoyed it, and, you know, it's just something that I already knew that I was probably going to like it. I wasn't expecting to like it that much. And I wasn't expecting the gameplay to be polished to this level because, like I said, their previous game was an isometric perspective game. And now they've completely transitioned to a third-person shooter, and they've done so with some of the best gameplay that I've seen in the third-person shooter genre, which was very surprising. Feel free to disagree with me on this if you are playing the game. I'd be curious to hear from people that are playing Helldivers 2 if they disagree with what I'm saying when it comes to the gunplay. Make sure to check the comments for that, just in case anybody disagrees, because I genuinely believe the gunplay of this game is friggin' god tier. It's really cool. So now you might be wondering, okay, so what about progression? Because you said this isn't a looter shooter, and it isn't. So the idea of the progression is, as you are doing these missions, and as you complete more side objectives, and also how fast you complete the missions themselves, you're going to be getting a bunch of different currencies in the game, including even you get the premium currency. Because remember how I told you that this is a live service game. Naturally, live service games have premium currencies. We're going to talk more about that a little bit further ahead. But You can even get the premium currency in the game itself, like just by playing the game. You might find on one of those side objectives, inside there, you might find some of that premium currency. Another way is you can, naturally this has a battle pass and whatnot. You can be progressing through the battle pass, and just a free track of the battle pass, you can get premium currency there, which might even enable you to buy the premium battle pass. I don't know. I've only played 12 hours, but I do know that you can get the premium currency, and you can use that premium currency to buy the pass, but the rate at which I've gotten it was very slow. Naturally, that is to be expected. But as I was talking about, when it comes to progression, you'll be able to unlock new stratagems, so new types of airstrikes, orbital bombardments, all of that stuff, which are so cool, dude. Calling in an orbital bombardment is like, I personally went and I unlocked this aerial strike of napalm. So I just straight up bring in a napalm strike into the field, and it actually stays on fire, and bugs that go through it start burning and dying, and it's glorious, dude. A napalm strike onto a planet feels great. And there's going to be even like a 500 kilogram bomb that I want to unlock as well. There's all of these things. So that's kind of like what you're progressing towards. Whenever you complete these missions, you're going to be getting currencies, and those currencies are going to allow you to unlock new weapons, unlock new stratagems, so even more powerful weapons like the rocket launcher I told you guys about, better types of machine guns, a rail gun. There's also an arc gun that shoots lightning. There's a bunch of different guns that you can unlock. There's a bunch of different orbital bombardments, airstrikes, as well as turrets that you can call onto the field as well. And there's also going to be passive upgrades that will then improve the specific aspect of a certain stratagem type that you like. So for instance, if you're really into orbital bombardments, you can get a type of passive progression that enables you to do that bombardment more often. It enables the bombardment to deal more damage and stuff like that. Same thing for turrets. You can improve your turrets, or you can improve your airstrikes. So that's kind of like the progression that you're working towards. And at the end of the day, when it comes to weapons, the weapons themselves, to me, feel like they provide you with different playstyles. They're not necessarily better. They might be, because again, I'm only 12 hours in, so my experience is somewhat limited in that aspect. But from what I have seen, I don't think that the weapons are necessarily more powerful. They just give you access to a different playstyle. Now, beyond that, we have, as I was talking about earlier, the Battle Pass. The Battle Pass is called the War Bond Progression. So the War Bond has two tracks. It has naturally the premium track and the basic track. For reference, this game is costing for $40 right now. And I don't know exactly what the price of the Battle Pass is. I would assume it's like 15 or something, because the version that they sent me comes with the Battle Pass already unlocked. But you have the free track, which lets you get new weapons, lets you get a bunch of different stuff, as well as a bunch of different cosmetics. And the way that you unlock those is throughout these missions, you can also pick up these things called medals. And the more objectives you complete, you'll also get awarded more medals at the end of the mission. And then you can use those medals to unlock different things from this War Bond, even the free version. If you have the premium version of the Battle Pass, which I forget what the name of it is, it's War Bond something else, whatever. If you have that, it's the same currency. So the same currency you use on the free pass is the same one that you use on the premium pass. But an important thing when it comes to their battle pass is that it does not expire. So if you buy it, you have it forever. You don't have to do it within the span of a month or whatever. It is there. All you got to do is play the game and get it. And you don't even have to play the game right now. You can take a break, come back like a year from now, assuming the live service is still running, obviously, and you'll be able to get right back to working on that War Bond that you bought a year prior. So that is definitely something that you can do. And to me, this needs to be the future of live service games. Like, if you're making a live service game that has a battle pass, it needs to last forever. This needs to be made standard. This whole FOMO nonsense of like, no, the battle pass lasts for like 2 or 3 months, and then we give you a new one, and you have to do it again in 2 or 3 months. And then, the idea that you can spend money and that money be wasted because you didn't have enough time to play, it just feels completely asinine to me. So the fact that these developers are, just being like, here's your battle pass, lasts forever. I believe one of the first cases that we've seen of this was Halo Infinite, which, you know, I don't really play Halo, but to me, I was like, yes, this is the, if you guys are going to do battle passes, this is the way to do it. Make sure they don't expire. Also, make sure they don't have stupid objectives, which is not the case for this one, because like I said, it's just medals, and you can get medals by just doing well in the game. They don't require you to, oh, you got to shoot 3 monsters with the pulse rifle. And you're like, but I don't like the pulse rifle. Too bad, sucker. They don't make you do any of that nonsense, which is good. So the medals is just like something that you pick up on missions and something that you get rewarded for doing well in the game. Boom. That's it. So to me, as far as when it comes to battle passes, this is one of the fairer ways of doing it. And again, remember that it is possible for you to play the game completely free to play. And if you're able to find enough, they're called super credits, you can just buy the battle pass using that. And then you can even grind more super credits from the premium battle pass. That is something that you can do. But yeah, that is the progression side of things. So not a looter shooter. You're not just progressively increasing your power. I mean, you do get more powerful stratagems, which are very different from getting more powerful weapons. But it's not a traditional looter shooter in that aspect. When it comes to armor pieces, armors also give you like different bonuses. So you can wear heavy armor, which gives you I believe more armor rating, makes you tougher and all of that, but at the same time, you consume more stamina. So there's clearly an advantage to also using lighter armor because you're going to consume less stamina. It's going to be easier for you to get around. So, you know, there's upsides and downsides to pretty much everything in the game. Even weapons, right? So for instance, I have this weapon that I bought on the premium track of the Battle Pass. I bought it by playing the game. So on the premium track, there was this weapon. It's called the explosive machine gun. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to be so absolutely busted. And at the end of the day, it was not. Compared to the regular machine gun that you get right at the beginning of the game. I shouldn't say machine gun. It's more like an assault rifle. Compared to the assault rifle that you get at the beginning of the game, it's just different. The assault rifle that you get at the beginning of the game has a faster fire rate. And I believe it has a higher magazine as well, a higher magazine capacity. Whereas the explosive one fires slower and has a lower magazine capacity. So does it deal more damage? Yes, but it deals less DPS. So there's a balancing act there. Now, is every weapon going to be perfectly balanced? Of course not. There's going to be weapons that are going to feel better than others, and there's probably going to be weapons that are going to be more powerful than others. Of course, people in the community are probably going to find that out at some point or another. But there's at least an intent that it's more of a different weapon, not necessarily a more powerful weapon. Now, the reason why this is a good thing is because, say, a friend of yours, like a year from now, wants to join you in Helldivers 2 because you've been having a good time, it is easy for your friend to join you because, number one, even if they don't have powerful stratagems, you can take a gun in your stratagem for your friend, and you can drop it for him, and he can pick it up and use it. So even if they don't have the powerful stuff, you can just summon something for him so that he'll have a decent gun at the beginning of the game. But even then, guns, like I said, they're not going to be more powerful, right? So even your friend on a basic assault rifle, he is going to be useful because he can do co-op things with you. So even just him being there, he can even be the dude that holds the ammo for your big rocket launcher. Or you can even do it the other way around. You can hold the ammo and he can use the rocket launcher straight from the go. So long as you have that stratagem, right? And, you know, that is a good thing. He doesn't need to go through like a year of progression to get to the point that you're at in the game to be able to enjoy the game. So that at least appears to be the plan for the beginning of Helldivers 2, which is cool. So now I wanted to talk a little bit about their story ideas for the game. So for starters, let's talk about what the theme of this game is, which to me it's fairly easy to kind of like explain. I would cross over 2 themes from popular sci-fi media, which would be Warhammer 40k, which the developers already said they are definitely inspired by Warhammer 40k. In a way, Helldivers almost feel like Space Marines because they're kind of like super soldiers that are coming in to just save the day. But then you cross that over with Starship Troopers. You know, you have that exaggerated sense of patriotism, delivering freedom and democracy against the bugs and all of that stuff, right? And you cross over those 2 themes and you actually have a pretty cool narrative theme to the game, at least in my opinion, because I am a fan of Starship Troopers and I'm also a fan of Warhammer 40k. So that's kind of like a no-brainer. If you like those 2 universes, this kind of like mixes those 2 together. But now, and when it comes to the story ideas for the game, which, by the way, I don't actually know what the story of the game is. All we know is that, hey, we're citizens of Super Earth, which is apparently our star system is getting invaded by the Terminids, and we're coming in to kill all of them to make sure that they do not endanger our way of life, right? So that's kind of like the whole idea. It's us versus the insects. And then there's also a faction of automatons, which I'm not sure what the deal is behind that. They look like Terminator machines. So in a way, I guess you can also cross over a little bit of Terminator into the mix. But you also fight robots from time to time. And their idea with the story is that they want this to be an ever-evolving campaign because it is a live service game, like I mentioned. So right now, there's... there's 2 territories that we're engaging in combat in. And I believe that this is worldwide. The whole community is engaging in combat in these 3 territories. And the objective is we're trying to liberate these territories from both the automatons as well as the Terminids. So there's a different sector of space where we're battling against the automatons and a different sector of space where we're battling against the Terminids. And the idea is we want to be able to liberate these planets, but it requires a really strong push from the entirety of the community because each individual mission that people do only moves the progress of the war a little bit. So this is kind of like a war of attrition. And considering that this is just a launch of the game, it seems that the developers are still trying to analyze how fast the community is progressing, and they're trying to figure out how fast they want them to progress through this war. Because they want this to work almost like a Dungeons & Dragons campaign. They've mentioned this in the interview that I saw earlier. So the idea is they want to be able to construct an ever-evolving narrative that is going to be based on how the community performs at the game. So say, for instance, if we do really well and we conquer a bunch of different star systems, what is going to happen is then the Terminids are going to have to come up with a special strategy to counter us. Could they maybe show up in a different space? Could they maybe, launch a massive counterattack? Or maybe they can even eventually be defeated and a new race gets introduced into the game because it is fundamentally a live service game and they can potentially introduce new deadly races. It doesn't have to be just the bugs and the automatons. This is where we get to that part where it's like, man, this game has really good bones. There's a lot of potential. But unfortunately, whenever we talk about having potential in a video game nowadays, it almost seems like it's kind of, so the game's not that good because, it has potential, but it's not really great. I feel like with Helldivers 2, I feel like the game is good. The game is really good. But on top of being really good, it has potential to be even better. It has potential to bring even more things into the mix, which is really cool. So their idea is that they want to go ahead and they want to, create this narrative that is going to evolve with the community, which is something that, in a way, Elite Dangerous themselves have tried doing. Even though I feel like Elite Dangerous didn't really succeed in there, and I would very much like to see Arrowhead Game Studio succeed in this much more than Elite Dangerous did. And it seems like they definitely have plans for that. They're also saying that not only they want this dungeon master type of mentality for the galactic chessboard, so to speak, right? So the players take over an area and they do something in response, but they're also doing it on a per match basis. So they're saying that potentially during certain matches, they're going to have GMs that are going to show up and they might give you special power-ups, or they might give you debuffs, or they might summon special monsters and stuff like that in your missions. I'm not exactly sure how they plan on implementing that at scale, but it definitely feels like a really cool idea. The developers just showing up and doing crazy stuff on people's missions out of nowhere. But like I said, I don't know how they're going to implement something like that at scale, but just the idea of the evolving storyline of, depending on how the community does in certain encounters, things are going to shift and change. Sounds like fun. But again, it's going to be something that's not going to be for everyone. If you're looking for, this type of experience, but in a more controlled environment, a more single-player environment type of thing, this is definitely not the game for you. Now, when it comes to recommendations, as the game is right now, this is a very easy recommendation. Because like I said, it is solid. The servers are not holding because I know that on the first day, servers were doing really rough. But right now, from my experience, the servers are holding. There's no real big problems. So everything's stable on that end. The gunplay of the game is absolutely phenomenal. The visuals are good. Animations are good. Sounds are good. I don't really have any complaints. It's just a matter of, are you the type of person that enjoys co-op gameplay with friends? this is definitely going to scratch that itch. If you like the themes of, like I said, Warhammer 40k, Starship Troopers, even Terminator to an extent, if you like those types of themes all mixed up into a sci-fi adventure, I think that this is super easy recommendation. Everything that I've played so far looks phenomenal. I can't wait to jump back into the game and play some more, which again surprised me. I was expecting to be interested. I wasn't expecting to be this interested. I really, really like what they're doing here. But anyway, that is going to be my video for now. If you guys enjoyed it, hit the like button, subscribe, bell notification icon, all that jazz. Naturally, this is a live service game, and as such, things are going to evolve, and if things change, and if I feel like, oh, this actually is not that great anymore, I'll be sure to inform you guys, but for now, it's looking real good. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay strong, stay safe, peace out.